Welcome back to another episode of the Two Hats Podcast. This is episode 3. I'm your host, Chris.
And it's Brittany, your favorite PO.
All right, we have a good episode for you today. We're going to be covering the topic of field work, also known as home contacts. And also, a little bit later in the episode, we have an interview with Aaron, who's a probation officer in Ohio. So definitely stay tuned. So field work's different based on the agency you work with, and the area that you work in. So as a juvenile, when I worked as a juvenile officer, we were required to do home contacts with our juveniles and their families to get a sense of what the house looks like, to kind of see the family dynamics, and especially when we had to do curfew checks on all our juveniles. So we have to pop up with them to check, make sure they're home during their curfew hours. How are home contacts done in Texas?
So as far as in my department, which is not to say that it's the same thing across the state, because different agencies across Texas do things a little bit differently. But as far as home visits for low risk offenders or low level offenders, we didn't go inside their homes. We would just go to the door. We would see them once a month or once every 3 months or on an as needed basis. So it wasn't like a consistent thing. So I didn't have to go in the field, quite as often as maybe you did, which that kind of thing, I actually like that part of the job, going into the field, but we didn't have to go that often.
See, the big thing is that with home contacts and field work, that's when the most danger is with the job, because you're in the offender's environment. You don't know what they have in their home. You don't know what kind of firearms, weapons they have. Whether your appointments are scheduled or you do pop-ups, which I do. All of my visits are pop-ups. There's a lot of danger involved because you don't know what you're going to walk into when you get to their home. You don't know what's going on. There have been situations where I've walked in on uh, almost leading up to domestic violence situations, where they're having parties where there's drugs and alcohol involved. So you never know. So it's a very dangerous part of probation, but it's also a very important part. Why do you think home contacts are so important, Brittany?
To me, I feel as though, I hate to say this, but a lot of times people, from my experience, a lot of times people would either lie about where they're actually living, or they
Yes,
will be in an environment that's unsuitable to their success. It's going to hinder their success on probation. So if we step into, their territory, so to speak, it kind of helps us get an idea of the area that we can help them with. And that's what probation is all about at the end of the day, to help the offender get, readjusted to being free if they were incarcerated in prison or jail or whatever, and to make sure that they're going to be productive citizens and not go back into the prison system or back into the county jail.
exactly. Because I mean, I've been in situations where I've gone to a house and they have no running water, they have no electricity, the gas is cut off. Um, and these are all factors that can lead to them, recidivism, because they're going to go out there and commit a crime or do what they have to do to try to get their lights on. Especially if they have family, they have kids, and they're trying to, feed them, put food on the table. That's where we come in. We say, okay, well, here, let me get you in contact with this agency that can help you pay your light bill. Let me get you in contact with um, the food stamp department here in the county, so you can try to get some food on the table. Here, let me get you in contact with um, different food banks and things like that, community resources that we know, because these are people that we work with every day. So that's why it's very important that we do home contacts, but we can never take it for granted. You have to be careful, you have to be safe. It's ideally that you go with someone else, and if another officer. If you can't do that, then it's very important that you just kind of keep your head on a swivel. um, you know Make sure you're very aware of what's going on, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you go home safe. So like I said, we have an interview today. We have our guest Aaron, and we're going to bring Aaron in and for the interview. Welcome everyone to the interview portion of the Two Hats podcast. Today we have our first guest, Aaron. Aaron's a probation officer in Ohio, right, Aaron?
Right. Erie County.
All right, man. Erie County. Okay. Welcome to the podcast, and we really appreciate you coming on to share your experiences with the Two Hats family. Hopefully, we're hoping to get into talking about your experiences, your history, how you like the job, so that those that are in the field can see how things are differently, how probation is done differently across the country. And for those that are interested in getting into the probation family, the community supervision family, so they can get some more background and kind of see what the job is really like. Because I have to be honest with you, when I was in college, I already know what probation was, but 8 years in, look at me now. So
Right.
I believe Brittany has the first question.
Hey, Aaron, what made you decide to get into this line of work?
Okay, well, this line of work came from a buddy of mine that was already a director of pretrial services. Me and him were both going through the police academy together, and he said he had an open position. I said, sure, I'll take the position, and basically it fell in my lap, and now I'm sticking with it. I really feel that I do a lot better in this half of the enforcement than the other half. I see more of the people that I wanted to get in law enforcement in the first place for was to help. So I see more people now on the back end of it that I can actually see what my help's doing,
Well, to kind of go along those lines, our second question for you is this. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being a social worker and 10 being a law enforcement officer, where does your agency fall along that two hat spectrum?
My agency itself kind of falls almost smack in the middle. Our chief probation officer is a law enforcement officer himself, so he was on that side, and now he's on this side as well. We have another officer that runs both. He's part-time officer and he's probation officer, so we fall right in between. There's 7, I believe, if not 6 or 7 part-time, not part-time, but field officers. So we all can go out in the field. We're all qualified for the field. But then there's also probation officers that are strictly the counseling side. Being able to do both is amazing. You can set what you want the parameters for your probationer to be, and then if they're not following the parameters, they don't have to deal with you from behind the desk or over the phone. They deal with you face to face. You know what I'm saying?
Tell us more about that. I've never actually heard of that, where a department has officers that are strictly in the office and then officers that are strictly in the field. Tell us more about that.
Our office, like every other office, you got to be qualified. You have to be certified with a pistol, with a firearm to be able to go in the field. We have, I believe it's 4 or 5 male officers that do searches. We do regular house visits, regular home visits, and we go out in the field. And there's other probation officers that aren't certified by OPATA standards, or with a pistol qualification they don't really go out in the field. They can if assisted by a field officer, specifically for officer safety.
That's real big. Definitely, officer safety is real big. There have definitely been probation and parole officers that have, unfortunately passed away in the line of duty, and a lot of people don't realize that if you really think about it, a police officer, when they interact with someone who they don't know, they don't, 90% of the people they interact with are just good law-abiding citizens, and of course, there's those 10% that they interact with that might be dangerous, or pose a risk to them. Whereas opposed to probation and parole officers, every person on our caseload is a convicted criminal.
Definitely.
And you can't let your guard down. You have to keep your head on a swivel. You have to stay in condition yellow, and you have to make sure that your safety and going home in the night is the most important thing.
Definitely. And that, to me, the officer safety comes down to training. Like I said, I went through police academy, so I have some of, if not the same equivalent as most of the officers, I've always been like that. If I approach a door, I approach the door on the right side that I'm supposed to. So if they open the door, they have to step out to see me first. If we're going doubles, there's always somebody watching my back if I'm knocking on a door, especially in apartment complexes, for instance. Me and my partner, we went to an apartment complex that I wouldn't have went in by myself. specifically for I'm not dumb. I don't know who's in this other apartment behind me. They see a guy come to their neighbor's door, tack vest, mag, radio, the whole 9 yards. Me, I'm a cop to them, and with everything going on right now, a lot of people don't care, and I don't know that. So as I'm knocking on the door, my partner's just watching six the whole time.
Exactly. Contact and cover. Contact and cover. Yeah, if it's your caseload, it's your offender, you're the contact person, you interact with them. It's your job to keep an eye on them, watch for their movements, watch for any bulges. Of course, that contact officer is their job to watch everything else. The
Exactly.
background, people around you, all the people in the home, third parties, everything going on. So contact and cover is definitely a key term and key strategy when you're in the field working with another officer.
Definitely.
So, Aaron, when you started this job, how long ago was this? How long have you been in this position?
It's coming up on about 2 years now. 2 years.
Nice. Have you ever been in a physical altercation with one of your offenders?
No, I don't have to be. I'm not trying to sound like King Kong, but certain people have a presence. I've had one guy
And I
start.
asked you that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've had a guy start to get like rowdy, but then it was like I turned around too quick on him and he just sat down. It was weird.
I ask you that because a lot of people who are interested in getting into this profession, some of them, I'm not gonna say a lot, but some of them are apprehensive because they think it's dangerous. They don't want to put themselves in danger. So to hear an officer has been in this position for almost 2 years and has not had any contact like that, that's encouraging to some people who might be afraid to step into it because they don't want that side of things.
Oh, definitely. It's a matter of how you hold yourself. If you look like a prey, somebody will prey upon you. You know what I mean? But if you hold yourself with respect and you treat them with respect, you're gonna get it back. As long as you're
100%.
just
That's
not going
important.
out there like Billy Badass.
That is so true. That's so true. That is definitely so true. Being able to give them respect, and I think a lot of the work you build up to, even if you have to arrest somebody, a lot of the work you put into your professional relationship with that offender helps so much in when you have to make that arrest or you have to go do that search at their home, how they respond.
Definitely.
If they know that hey, this officer, he's always fair. Yeah, I made some mistakes, he's giving me chances, and I keep messing up, and he gives me chances, I keep messing up, he tells me, hey, listen, you crossed that line one more time, unfortunately I have to do my job. They're not really surprised when you get to that point where you have to make that arrest. um,
Definitely.
and I believe a lot of it is groundwork and how you talk to your clients, how you talk to your offenders. I mean, definitely, I've worked with officers back when I was a juvenile officer, where they would talk down to the juvenile sometimes, and then they wonder when they go to their house why the parents are hostile to them, why the
Exactly.
juveniles hostile to them. It's all about building relationships. That's a big part of our jobs. A lot of people don't understand that, but also a big part of our jobs too is going into that home and seeing that home environment. Aaron, why do you think seeing that home environment is so important to what we do in terms of trying to be change agents?
I mean, it's the home environment. We can do whatever we need to do where we are, but at the end of the night, we go home. We don't know what they go home to. They can be faced with the same thing that made them act out in the first place. If you got a drug addict that when they're not at home, they're fine. When they're in rehab, they're fine, totally fine, on the track to be sober, period. As soon as they go home, they relapse because it's in their home. It's all about what they're around sometimes. And I've tried to explain that to numerous people. Numerous. I have probationers that I went to school with personal. And then seeing them on the downfall they are now, which in high school, they were captain of a wrestling team on track. You see them now, they're under the bus, let's say that. But it's all what's at home.
That's definitely, I definitely agree with you on that one. I've had juvenile offenders I've worked with where, we keep wondering why they keep getting into fights at school, why they keep putting hands on people, and then you go to the home, dad's drunk all the time, dad might be hitting on mom, so he sees it at home. It's an unhealthy relationship, and that does give you a key look into what's going on. Just like Aaron said, if you have an offender that's a drug addict, and they live with their parents or their siblings and they use, yeah, they might be good when they're in rehab or when they're away, but when you put them back in that environment, that temptation is there. So
Definitely.
definitely, the home contacts are very, very, very important. Um, Now let's talk about a little bit about home contacts being an armed officer versus being an unarmed officer. So Brittany, I remember you telling us earlier that your agency didn't carry firearms, but you were still expected to do home contacts. So tell us, how do you manage that being an unarmed officer?
Okay, so unlike you guys, we never went into their house. Like that was just not a part of it. Like you go with you and a partner, you never go by yourself, and then you basically stand outside the door. Have the offender come to the door. You chop it up for about 5 minutes. I'm not even kidding you. It was like really fast. But for more intensive caseloads, like the sex offender caseload or the high risk caseload, something like that, yeah, they do have to go into the offender's home. But if you're like a low level offender or low risk, then yeah, we didn't have any issues needing to carry a firearm because there wasn't that type of well, they didn't feel like there was that type of interaction, so we didn't need it. But I felt safe. Everybody always used to ask me like, how do you feel going over there to somebody's house and you don't have any type of weapon? Yeah, it was nothing. Because like Aaron mentioned before, and you mentioned Chris, you have to build that rapport with that person. If you respect them, it's cool.
So Aaron, do you think it's different being an armed officer and doing home contacts?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. You always get the people that are apprehensive right off the bat. As soon as they open the door, especially like if I get a new person on my caseload, on my list to go see in a field visit, I show up to their door. They don't expect to see a beefy guy that's tacked out show up at their door, firearm on their hip, just staring at them in the face like, "How you doing?
If
My
you
name
come
is
to my house,
Officer
I'm
Pearson."
closing the door. If you came to my house looking like that,
I mean, I've got that before. I've got that before, and then they got the irritated knock again, and then the whole spiel. And it was like, "Oh, I didn't know. I thought you were the cops." So you just close the door on the cop's face. I mean, I don't really.
yep.
I mean, pretty much. But you get that when you show up to somebody's house and you're armed. I've, I'm kind of used to it now. So you get people that are apprehensive, and you get people that just stare at you and then stare down the whole time until you ease them. Like, this is what I'm here for. I'm just here to check on you. You're not in trouble.
So your
See,
home visit, were they or are they unannounced or you guys schedule
Oh
them?
yeah.
How does that go?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They are always unannounced.
Oh,
I agree.
Always. It's
I agree.
that's how I work it. If I'm coming to do a home visit, I'm not telling you I'm coming. I'm not telling you what time I'm coming. Because there's times that I've showed up to somebody's house at 12 o'clock at night
Uh,
just to make a point.
First of
oh
all,
my
you
God.
you
What is
got it
your
on that
month
midnight.
schedule? What?
You got it on that one. That's something I ain't doing. I ain't something I ain't doing. Midnight. Woo. I mean,
Uh,
I've gone to somebody's house at 10 o'clock at night, but midnight is
I
that's a
mean, I've
different
gone at
animal right
midnight.
there.
It is what it is. I mean, if I get an alert from somebody's anklet, I might have to go to that call.
That's yeah. See, that's different though. That's different when you have to deal with electronic monitoring and being on call. That's definitely different than just random field appointments.
I've also did a random field visit at 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock.
Man, why are you
Yeah,
so
you the
tough?
man,
Why are you
Aaron.
so tough on your people?
You the man.
You got to be some of them you have to be tough on. Some of them will lie straight to your face, and 2 hours later they in a police report.
I don't know. It ain't some of them. It ain't some of them. It's more than some.
Touche. I was
It's
trying to
more
be
than
modest.
some. It's more than some.
I was
That's
trying to
probably
be modest.
that's something we're probably going to talk about in a future episode. Is the lies of dealing with probationers. I know. Brittany got some stories.
Woo.
But the way I always say it is, I'll listen, but I got to verify whatever you're telling
Exactly.
me. I'll listen to what you're saying, but best believe I'm gonna verify it because don't try to play the angles. But
Exactly.
try to. Definitely want to keep staying on the topic of home visits though. So, Brittany, question for you, and then I'm gonna give it on to Aaron. Is have you ever done a home visit where you've done a pop up and things aren't right at the offender's home, whether you walk into a domestic violence situation or it's about to escalate to that point, or the offender was actively using drugs, or just something wasn't right. Their vibe was off. They seemed more cautious than they usually are. Brittany, you ever had that kind of situation before?
No. No. And you know why I say that? Because you know how you guys are doing pop-ups, so to speak. I scheduled all my home visits. So these people knew I was coming to their house.
Oh yeah.
So they're not gonna
You
have any, funny stuff going on. I think if it was in a situation like you guys, then probably, yeah, they probably would have popped off. And then, like I said, we don't even go in their house. So I don't even see much. Like they literally come to the door. The door's like cracked. I don't see nothing. So there was no action. There was no action. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so when you get there, they got their Sunday best on. They're holding the puppy, and
right. They
the
was
kid
I
and the
ready.
think
kids
the
got their
They was
hair
craziest
ready for
done.
it.
thing,
They was ready
the
for it.
craziest thing was this girl showed up at the door naked. Like she knew I was coming, so that disturbed the hell out of me. Like, girl, you know I was coming to your house. Why are you naked? Why are you opening the door naked? Ooh, people, Lord, people.
She forgot you was coming. She
But
thought
yeah.
her man was coming.
Mm-hmm. Nah, she knew who was coming.
What about you, Aaron? Ever did a pop up and walked in on something?
I did a pop up on a guy. I think the most craziest one. I did a pop up on a guy, and there was literally 20 people in this small house. 20 people, and I could just smell it before I even opened the door. Before they even opened the door, I smelled nothing but straight weed. I'm like, open the doors, bottles. They just having a grand old party. I'm like, let me talk to you real quick. I had to pull him outside, talk to him. I ain't say nothing about it, but 20 minutes later, he got picked up.
Oh, that's messed up. I'm just
Yo, Brittany, whose
I mean,
side
it
you
is what it
on?
is, right?
Oh, hold up. You know what side I'm on. But I still feel bad. Like I would always feel bad when people got arrested. I just really did.
I mean, I've had a couple people that had been arrested that I'm like, why? No, all you had to do was do what you were supposed to do, and you wouldn't be arrested. There's people that just won't do it.
No, the worst part is when people start short timing. They'll do good their entire probation, get down to those last 2 months, and they just like, oh, I'm about to
Yeah,
be done, and they start doing everything, popping positive on drug screens, missing curfews, just doing what they want to do, living their best life. And I'm like, dude, you just went
pretty much
from about to be successfully terminated to yo, here's your court date, bruh. We got to go talk to the judge about this.
for real.
Um,
I've seen it.
so Aaron, you said you're a field union. You guys do searches also, right?
Yes.
Tell us more about that. How do you guys prepare to do a search?
Uh, Honestly, it depends on who's going out to do a search. Anytime I've gone out to do a search, it's been with one specific individual, and that's the guy that brought me into the fold in the first place. Me and him, we can basically look at each other and go there or check there, or I checked here once, you check here again, and I go back in again a third time. Him and I conducted a search where we found a couple prescription pills that weren't in the right place, pretty much. And then I proceeded to find cellophane. And if you know what cellophane is, it was burnt at the top. That's normally what people use for baggies, you know. So I found a couple of those. So I kept looking. I found stuff. He also found another firearm in a room that he wasn't supposed to have. It depends on who you were with that you can get ready for a search. Now, if I went out with somebody I'm not used to searching with, then it's the rundown. It's like, okay, here's the front door, here's the back door. I don't know how many rooms are in the house, but you got to watch him while I search this, and I watch him when you search this. It all depends on who you search.
Do you detain the offender while you're conducting your search?
Oh yeah, of course, have to detain him and keep him in one area, because if he can move around, who knows what he can move while he's detained, even with his hands behind his back. Or there's another technique that me and the one guy used before. We set him in the general area so he could see everything, and just about everywhere his eyes moved when we got close to it, we checked there.
That's a good technique. That's good right there, because those eyes always give them away. Always, the eyes go right to what they're worried
Exactly.
about.
Exactly. So we let him see a search, and wherever his eyes went, or wherever they bugged out a little bit, is where we went.
Now, if you do end up finding something like saying a firearm or such, what would you do next?
Our SOP is to call the local department, whether it's a PD or the county. We call them, we give the evidence over to them, and then it's a new charge.
Is your agency able to make arrests on the spot? Or do you have to file a violation and get a warrant first in order to make an arrest?
Normally it's the violation, warrant, arrest, unless it's the whole exigent circumstance thing. If we see him doing some straight up illegal shit right in front of our face,
Mm-hmm.
then it's cuff and go.
Okay.
Or if he touches one of us, gets aggressive, stuff like that, yeah, then it's cuff and go.
Cuff and go. So when I was juvenile officer in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Juvenile Act specifically says about searches is that it has to be pre-approved by a supervisor. So there have been times where I might go to a juvenile's home and I might see something. The biggest giveaway would be the empty tobacco from the blunt wrappers in the trash. That's the number one giveaway. Hey, supervisor, listen, I'm at such and such's house. They got empty blunt wrappers here. The tobacco's in the trash can. Can I get permission to search? That's usually a go ahead.
Definitely.
So that's a little bit different in juvenile. Like I said, we had to have by the law, by the Juvenile Act in Pennsylvania, we had to have permission from a supervisor to do a search. Now, I believe the adult office, they don't need permission because it's a condition of their probation that they can do a search.
Now
we do not. Yeah, where I'm at now, we don't need permission. We generally always do converse, and if it's something that's planned, we'll converse with our supervisor and kind of explain what's going on. Get a team together and then go execute the search. But if the situation arises in the field, and the searches is something one officer should ever do alone. Never ever. For all those listening, for those that want to become officers, you never do a search by yourself. It's not safe. It's not safe. It's not safe. Because how can you monitor the offender that you have detained and successfully do a search? So if there's a situation arises where I might walk into something and that, like the situation Aaron had, where there's a house full of people, there's drugs in there, there's alcohol, smells like drugs. You make a decision at that point. Do you want to you would retreat like Aaron did, call the locals, brief them on what's going on, and go back with numbers. Because one thing you don't want to do is ever do anything by yourself. So that's kind of a little difference between juvenile and adult in terms of how that works. In juvenile, I have done searches by myself. The policy does allow us to do that. just because there is a lower risk because it is juveniles. But clearly, you always want numbers whenever you're doing a search.
Definitely.
So yeah. So kind of keeping on topic of field work. How do you feel? How do you tell us about some of the? I know you got a few because I know I have a few of them. Tell us about some of the nastiest, grimiest homes you've been in. I know you got some stories, man. Because I know I got a few.
Oh man. All right, so I'll tell you, I got two of them for it. The first, if not the second field visit I had ever went on, they asked me to get a screen for the guy. So me and my partner, we walk into his house.
What's the screen? You
First
talking
of all,
about drug screen?
drug screen.
Drug
First of
screen.
all, we
Okay.
walk into the foyer of the apartment. Knock on the door. He says, "Come in." Me and my partner look at each other like, "I ain't going in there. You going in there?" That's not what we do. We told him to come to the door. He opened the door. All the lights are off. First of all, only thing that's lit up is his Christmas tree in like February.
In February?
Can't see nothing. Yeah, but the smell is horrendous, right? So we told him he has MS, so he's really not doing nothing anyway. So it was lower risk, so we weren't really 100% worried about it. So we told him we needed a screen, so I gave him the cup, and he turns. So I'm like, all right, he's gonna walk to his bathroom. No, he just whips it out in the middle of the living room, and like I'm like,
Oh.
all right, cool. And I just let it go. He ended up not being able to go. I walked out, looked at each other. Was like, we ain't going there no more. That was that guy. Next time we had another screen. It was in another set of lower income developments. There was carpet on the floor. When you stepped on it, it got sticky.
Mm.
It was almost like tile, but it was carpet. I wasn't ready to prepare for that either. I ended up sanitizing my boots when I got out of there, if that explains anything. And it was that old 1977 shag carpet, the tan and brown stuff. Just all matted down like tile.
Oh
I didn't
man.
need that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I've been in some houses as a juvenile working in the inner city where I'm talking about, man, you got the roaches fighting the spiders in the corner. You got the piles of clothes on the floor. And she gonna have the mom had a nerve to say, "Oh, they clean. Then why is they on the floor?" Oh man, I'm talking just trash everywhere. Apparently they can't afford trash cans or trash bags, so these got thrown on the floor. And then you wonder why the juvenile is messed up, why he's angry all the time, why he's mad. Because his basic needs aren't being met. He ain't got a clean house, there ain't enough food in the house, and you wonder why he's mad. And he's going to school picking fights with people. People that that
Listen,
dress look,
y'all.
they're cleaner than him, dress better than him, because he's mad. Listen, I understand.
Okay.
Go, you got something to say, Brittany?
Yeah, dang. Can I talk? Woo, y'all over talking me on this podcast today. Okay, no. But I just wanted to point out that was one of the things that I hated most about that job is that when you see people in a situation like that, like the resources that us as probation officers had were so limited. And it's like you can't even really do anything about it. And it's like so heartbreaking because you see it constantly where people need this help. And it's nothing you can do. So, Chris, when you went to a situation like that, where this kid is in a house that's filthy, disgusting, like what was the steps? Like what resources did you guys have to help kids like that?
But hey, CPS, I got a referral for you.
CPS is terrible. Oh
Hey,
God, that's
hey,
it. What else you got?
my wife's a CPS worker. They are not terrible people. They have a tough job.
No, they are not terrible people, but a child being just caught in the system, even on that end of the spectrum, is terrible, is what I'm saying.
I understand. When I was a juvenile officer, there have been cases where me and my wife are involved with the same case. That's happened once or twice. You know, and it's funny they can never put it together. We have the same last name, but they never put it together. It's funny.
Okay, and then what about Aaron? You deal with adults or juveniles? I'm lost at this point.
Well, I mean,
Adults.
currently I work with adults.
Well, Chris, I know you work with adults, but Aaron, so when you see a situation and a person, their living conditions are just like, what kind of resources does your area have? Exactly. Look, y'all, if y'all can see him right now, he's scratching his head because yeah, it's real dry.
Uh,
Hey man, they adults. They gotta figure it out. Just like I'm an adult, and I can figure it out.
exactly.
Listen. You go right to Dollar Tree, you get your little thing of Fabuloso, right? Get you some trash bags. All right. It ain't that hard. Listen, it ain't that hard. I
No,
understand.
it's not always that simple though. It's not always that simple because these, mind you, some of these people are getting out of jail or prison in you guys' cases. They don't have anything, so they're just going wherever they can go to fit in. They don't have a choice to, oh, I can go and buy this and buy that. Half of these people don't even have jobs, Chris. They can't even eat. And you want
Hey,
them to
man,
go buy some Fabuloso?
you have a choice about throwing a McDonald wrapper on the floor. That's a choice. That's a
You know what?
choice.
That's another story for another episode, okay?
All right, all right. Aaron, I got a couple questions for you. Tell us, you got
Yo,
any crazy arrest stories?
hmm, I do, but I don't know if I can actually say that one.
Understandable,
Let's just,
understandable.
let's just say that ATF was involved on something.
All right, all right. Some jail time happened.
Jail time definitely happened. Definitely happened. It was a prepper. He shouldn't have had everything he had.
Mm, okay. Enough said. Enough said. Um, any uh, any chases?
We have a no chase policy,
Okay.
which I have a radio.
Mm-hmm.
Can't run faster than radio waves.
This is true. This is true.
Oh, I
Do you
have a
guys serve?
question,
Go
Aaron.
ahead.
Yes.
What is the what is the success rate for your caseload as far as these people getting off probation without any violations, without any trips to the jail? What would you say?
Technically, my caseload is people on bond.
So what's
So
so like pre-trial, right?
yeah, definitely pre-trial.
So
Oh,
what
that's
would that
crazy.
success rate look like?
Some
Because
of
some
them
people they
people,
can screw it up on bond.
yeah, yeah. I've had I've had a lot. I mean, I can't even really put a number to it, but I've had a lot of decent people make it off of bond and pre-trial and get on probation and be fine and have a successful. But I've had other people that literally don't check in on bond ever and go right back to jail.
So when they violate their bond, um, what happens? Do you request a warrant? What happens?
I mean, there's certain steps. It's not just like, okay, you violated, you going back to jail right now. There's steps. We try to give people chances. Um, After a certain amount of violations, yeah, it's time for you to go back to jail because you ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing.
So once they violate and they do go back to jail, is that like it, or do they get like another chance? I've had a lot of people ask me that question before.
They can literally get out on the same conviction. I've had many of them get out literally on the same bond conditions, the same everything, and still mess up. And have people got out on the same bond recommendations because it was a technicality that they didn't understand what they were supposed to be doing.
How often is it that someone that's out on bond or a bond supervision or pretrial, and they beat their case?
I haven't had any yet because most of my people out on bond. I'm not even trying to be funny for real. Like the ones that I have on bond, like they know they did it kind of thing. Then there's other ones for like GSI stuff like that. They're still trying to fight it.
What's GSI?
Gross sexual imposition.
So like a sex offender type case.
Definitely. And there's it's continued and continued and continued. Different lawyer trying to basically, not trying to get on the offender list.
We're gonna wrap this up. What kind of advice would you give someone that is looking to get into this field, looking to join our family, our community supervision family? What kind of advice would you give them?
You can't be soft, but you have to have some kind of compassion. You have to be stern, but you got to be able to look at somebody in the face and be like, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that you had a hard time in life, but to get you better, you got to do what you're supposed to do. And that's what I'm here to enforce, is what you're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean?
That's good advice right there. That's real good advice. All of y'all, make sure y'all listen to Aaron. That's some good advice right there. It's not all about being hard. This job is not about being hard. I find that people that come in with this job and they're real black and white. There's no shades of gray. Those people don't make it. They get burned out.
Definitely.
You have to realize that you're working with people. It takes time for people to change. It takes resources for people to change.
Definitely.
So that's definitely good advice. Brittany, you have a last question for Aaron?
Aaron, would you ever consider moving to Texas?
I mean, I got family in Texas.
So you would consider it?
I mean, the price of living in Ohio is extremely cheap. Is all I'm saying. But I mean, Texas, I can ride my bike all year round.
There you go. Hey, Aaron, we appreciate you coming on for the interview today. We appreciate you being a part of the Two Hats family. We definitely appreciate the service that you're giving.
Our viewers, our listeners, follow you on social media? Or are you definitely. Chris, you don't let people follow you?
I mean, I definitely vet people, but you can follow it. Instagram is AmpVision, AMPD, VISION. I believe my Snapchat is AMPD1. That's it right now because I ain't got Facebook. I let that go.
Again, thank you, Aaron. We appreciate you, man. Definitely make sure you continue to support us, and we'll support you. And you be safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for our interview today.
No problem, man. Thank y'all.
Yes, thank you guys so much. That was a really, really good episode with Aaron, our special guest. Please follow us at the Two Hats Podcast on Instagram. Also, subscribe to our channel if you have not yet here on YouTube. And you will see us here next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So please be on the lookout and comment any questions you have. And until next time, stay safe, y'all.
Hey, be safe. Welcome to the family, guys. And make sure you leave any kind of comments down below, and we will definitely try to get back to you.